Those the classes which all the teachers, in fact I have taken one class with you on 18th of this month, was quite helpful, I suppose. And so this lockdown period, which would have been monotonous for you, I suppose, with all the online classes, e-classes, which every institution as well as the government has taken up this initiative, it would be helping a lot to overcome this monotony. Now, as the previous day when I have taught you, if you remember, if you recollect, that I have told you for class 12, you are having two books. So, contemporary world politics and politics in India since independence. The other day I have taken a class from this book, that is Contemporary World Politics, and the chapter which I had taken was Cold War Era. And today I have more or less thought of taking a chapter from this particular book, the second one, that is Politics in India since Independence. So one chapter from that, the first book, and another chapter today I am going to take from the second book. Now, before starting the classes, just a reminder that myself, an assistant teacher of Burdwan Model School, myself Nasrin Begum, and here I am to teach you political science for class 12, and this is from the second book which I have told you, that is Politics in India since Independence, and the name of the first chapter is Challenges of Nation Building. From the name of the chapter only you can make out that we are talking about building up a nation, and what were the problems, what were the obstacles, what were the hurdles which came up while building up a new nation. And what is this? We are referring to which country as this nation? We are referring to India. We all know that India had been under colonial rule for 200 years of the Britishers. The British colonial rule, it existed in India for more than 200 years. And in your history books, all of you have read about all the atrocities, all what had happened during this British colonial rule. As I have talked to you before while teaching you from another book, that it was because of this 200 years of colonial rule that why India, which happened to be one of the most richest countries of the world, has now come to the category of developing nation. All its resources were drained out. So India is now struggling to reach up to its previous point where it was famed to be one of the richest countries of the world. So India had undergone horrible colonial rule by the British for 200 years, and India during this period, you know, when the Britishers were ruling in India, India was striving very hard to achieve its independence. That means to make India into a free nation. And in this chapter we will talk about the hardships of that, together with that some other challenges which came up with this particular goal of India for achieving its freedom. Now it was we all know that India was to achieve its freedom from and this was very nicely portrayed by the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, in his famous speech when he had addressed the Constituent Assembly with regard to the independence which India would be achieving from the British colonialism. We suppose many of us have heard about that at the stroke of midnight, the opening lines of this particular speech to the Constituent Assembly given by the first Prime Minister of independent India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So this was the plan that an independent nation would be formed, which would be known as India, which Free India, because previously it was known as British occupied India or British India, but India was going to become free, because we have all known about the freedom struggle which India had been undergoing, the sacrifice of the great rulers which you have studied in your history book, and its struggle to gain independence. So this was the scenario when India was actually trying to achieve its independence. But this goal of independence was aimed at two things. First of all, India would achieve its independence, and in this process it had two goals in mind. That after achieving independence, what were the two goals which it was going to follow? First of all, India would be forming a democratic government. Democratic government means a government which would be formed by the people of the country, and where the sovereign powers would be in the hands of the people of the country. That means India was actually trying to get rid of the imperialism or the monarchical rule of the British. So India was trying to replace it with a democratic government, that is a government formed by the people, from members amongst it, and ruling by the people for the betterment of the people of the country. And the second goal was